I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Hey guys, I'm JoshBeGaming and welcome to another Road to Black Ops 3, but again I'm not playing live. I'm doing an update video on Black Ops 3. Well, it's not really on Black Ops 3, it's leading up to Black Ops 3. As the title says, it's like a recap of what's happened so far in the campaign of Black Ops and Black Ops 2. Every single Call of Duty game I get, I don't even touch multiplayer until I finish the campaign. I've done that since Modern Warfare. I think, yeah, Modern Warfare 2. Played the campaign, then multiplayer. And every Call of Duty that's come out since, I've done exactly the same. So, obviously, when Black Ops 3 comes out, I'll be let's playing the campaign. So, I want you to know, or be up to date with the story. That's why I'm doing, like, the recap of the two campaigns. Now, I've gone on the internet and looked up, like, the plot and the story of each one, and I'm going to read out the whole plot of each one and the story and stuff, and then just that's basically the easiest thing to do instead of, I don't know, like trying to pinpoint like key points during the campaign. I'm just going to go through it all. Literally, I don't know exactly how long this video is going to last, but each one is about a page worth of reading, so I'm going to get right to it. Single player for Call of Duty Black Ops, the character and setting. Call of Duty Black Ops takes place during the 1960s in the Cold War. It focuses on CIA clandestine black operations carried out behind enemy lines. Missions take place in various locations around the globe, such as the Ural Mountains in East Russia, Kazakhstan in Central Russia or USSR, Cuba, Hong Kong, Laos, South Vietnam and the Arctic Circle. The single-player campaign revolves around an experimental chemical weapon codenamed Nova 6. Just before we carry on, I will pronounce a lot of stuff wrong, and I'm not very good at just reading off a screen, so I'll mess up quite a bit. Just heads up. The main protagonist the player controls is SAD/SOG Special Forces operative Alex Mason. Occasionally, CIA agent Jason Hudson and some other characters are playable to progress the story. Alex is often joined by fellow operatives Frank Woods and Joseph Bowman, while Jason teams up with Gregory Weaver, a Russian-born field operative. Viktor Reznov, a key character from the Soviet campaign in World at War, returns along with the game's Russian protagonist Dmitry Petrenko, also making an appearance. Black Ops also features several historical figures during the main story, as Mason meets John F. Kennedy, Robert McNamara, and Fidel Castro. The whole story I'm about to read out, this is like a detailed description of what happens throughout the whole story of Black Ops, so it's going to take a while. On February 25, 1968, SOG operative Alex Mason is strapped to a chair in an interrogation room, bombarded with questions by his unseen captors about the location of a numbers station. Mason then recalls several events as an attempt to answer his questions. And then you play these flashbacks as it travels back from these, like, whatever Mason recalls, you then go and play that recalled event, and then it just keeps going back to the numbers, you being interrogated and stuff. It's a really good story. In 1961, Mason, Woods and Bowman take part in Operation 40 to assassinate Fidel Castro in Cuba during the Bay of Pigs invasion. Mason apparently succeeds and stays behind to protect the extraction plane from an oncoming blockade, before being captured by the real Castro, having shot a double. Handed over to General Nikita Dragovich to be held captive at Vortuga Gulag, Mason befriends inmate Viktor Reznov, the former Red Army soldier. Reznov recounts to Mason the identities of his enemies, the same people involved in Mason's torture: Nikita Dragovich, his right-hand man Lev Kravchenko, and ex-Nazi scientist Friedrich Steiner, who defected to the Soviet Union. In October 1945, Reznov and Dmitry Petrenko were sent to extract Steiner from a Nazi base in the Arctic. Dragovich later betrayed them by testing Steiner's creation, a nerve agent known as Nova 6, on Petrenko and other soldiers on the ship. Reznov was spared the same fate when British commandos, also attempting to acquire Nova 6, attacked the Soviets. During the confusion, Reznov destroyed the Nova 6 and escaped. However, the Soviets recreated it using Steiner and the British scientist Daniel Clark. Over a year later, Mason and Reznov spark a prisoner uprising to escape the Gulag, but only Mason escapes and Reznov is captured. 1 month later, President John F. Kennedy meets Mason and authorizes a mission to assassinate Dragovich. Mason briefly envisions aiming at his sidearm at Kennedy. In November 1963, Mason, Woods, and Bowman and Weaver are dispatched to Baikonur Cosmodrome, Kazakhstan USSR, to disrupt the Soviet space program and eliminate members of the Ascension, a Soviet program giving sanctuary to Nazi scientists in exchange for their knowledge. Weaver is captured and Kravchenko stabs out his left eye. Mason and his team rescue him and destroy the Soyuz spacecraft, while Woods apparently kills Dragovich, then Mason believes him to be alive. In 1968, the team is sent to Vietnam. After defending Keishan, they recover a dossier of Dragovich from a Russian defector in Hue during the Tet offensive. There's so many stuff in here I don't understand. Mason finds the defector is none other than Reznov. They then penetrate Laos to recover a Nova 6 shipment from a downed Soviet plane. At the crash site, the plane collapses and they are captured by Viet Cong and Spetsnaz infiltrators. Bowman is executed, while Woods and Mason hijack the Mi-24 Hind and rescue Reznov at Kravchenko's base before confronting Kravchenko himself. Woods then stabs Kravchenko, gaining the upper hand, but Kravchenko pulls out the pins on 4 grenades strapped to his chest. Woods sacrifices himself by pushing Kravchenko and himself outside a window. In a huge explosion, Mason presumes Woods and Kravchenko are both dead. Meanwhile, Hudson and Weaver interrogate Clark in Kowloon Walled City. Clark reveals the location of a hidden facility in Mount Yamantau, don't know where that is, before being killed by Dragovich's men. Hudson and Weaver move to destroy the facility and receive a transmission from Steiner requesting to meet at Rebirth Island, as Dragovich has begun killing loose ends. Mason and Reznov head there to assassinate Steiner at the same time, succeeding just as Hudson and Weaver arrive. Mason is adamant that Reznov executed Steiner, but Hudson had witnessed Mason carrying out the act alone. At this point, Hudson and Weaver are revealed as Mason's interrogators. Dragovich has communist sleeper cells placed all over the United States which, when ordered by the number broadcast, will release the Nova 6 gas. As a result, the US is preparing a retaliatory strike on the Soviet Union, which will lead to a full-scale war. Hudson needed Steiner to abort the gas launch, but after his death, only Mason has any knowledge of the numbers station. Hudson reveals that Dragovich brainwashed Mason to understand the numbers broadcast, effectively making him the Soviet sleeper agent. It is revealed that the real Reznov never escaped but died during the Vorkuta breakout, and the Soviet defector in Hue was actually killed before Mason reached him. Mason's vision of Reznov are a result of a dissociative disorder caused by a traumatic brainwashing program. Prior to the Vorkuta breakout, Reznov had secretly met and programmed Mason to assassinate Dragovich, Kravchenko and Steiner for what they all had done to him and for killing Petrenko and his comrades. Instead of Mason's original aim to kill US President, Mason finally remembers the location of the numbers station, a Russian cargo ship called Rusalka, off the coast of Cuba. An assault on the Rusalka begins, with Mason and Hudson infiltrating the underwater submarine and broadcast station. With Mason and Hudson infiltrating the underwater submarine and broadcast station protected by the ship, intended to be used for an invasion of the US, after planned after the planned Nova 6 attack. Confirming that the Rusalka is the number station, Hudson calls in the US Navy to destroy the ship and its underwater base. Mason and Hudson finally confront Dragovich in the lower levels of the facility. Dragovich taunts and hints at his hand in assassinating Kennedy, but Mason drowns him and escapes. Archive footage of President Kennedy prior to his assassination is shown, revealing Mason in the crowd, implicating suggesting that Mason may have carried out his initial programming, obviously in the assassination of JFK. That was confusing for me to read. I remember going through all this during the game. When I said I didn't understand most of it, it was some of the words I didn't understand, like, I didn't understand how to pronounce them because I've never seen them before, like, dissocactive. Yeah, you know what I mean. And then, I think 2 years later, Black Ops was released in 2010, and Black Ops 2 was released in 2012, so yeah, 2 years later Black Ops 2 was released, with a more confusing storyline because you went from the year 1980 to 2025. So, the plot for Black Ops 2 is in 2025, US Special Forces operatives led by David Mason and his partner Harper arrive at the Vault, a top security location home to an elderly Frank Woods, whom they suspect possesses vital information on the whereabouts of Raul Menendez. Woods concedes that Menendez has recently visited him and shows them a locket and a letter that he left behind. And a locket that the latter had left behind. Frank then narrates several covert missions undertaken during his military career which span their previous encounters. So again, it's like a recall thing where he recalls, you go play that recalled event. This is set in the 1980s. In 1986, Alex Mason had effectively retired from active duty to pursue an obscure existence in Alaska with his son, the 7-year-old David Mason. Their shaky relationship is further strained when Mason is solicited by Jason Hudson, seeking to recruit him for an assignment in Cubango during the height of the Angolan Civil and South African border wars. Woods had disappeared with his men while aiding Jonas Savambi's UNITA rebels against Angola's Marxist government. Their actions have already been disavowed by the CIA, and Hudson hopes to rescue any survivors. With UNITA's assistance, Mason and Hudson recover Woods from the Kavango River, subsequently locating Menendez among a contingent of Cuban military advisors. However, a firefight breaks out and their quarry escapes as the Americans are rescued by Savimba in the Hind D, apparently. It is revealed that Menendez is responsible for holding Woods captive after murdering his team. In the light of this information, Mason, Woods and Hudson begin tracking Menendez, who established himself as a primary arms dealer for Bush conflicts in South Africa and Latin America. Later in the year, the CIA authorizes a strike against the unscrupulous Nicaraguan, now making a healthy profit running arms across Soviet-occupied Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, Mason, Woods and Hudson assist the Mujahideen in their battle against the Soviets, along with the Chinese operative Tain Zhao. Woods and Mason find Lev Kravchenko, who survived the grenade incident with Woods in Vietnam, causing Mason to see the numbers and hear the voice of Viktor Reznov again. Kravchenko is interrogated by the group and the player is given the option of executing Kravchenko by Reznov's orders inside Mason's head, or resisting and finishing the interrogation. In the latter scenario, Woods executes Kravchenko after admitting that he associated with Menendez and that he has men inside the CIA. Regardless of how Kravchenko is killed, the Mujahideen are revealed to be allied with Menendez, a double cross Mason, Woods, Hudson and Zhao. The four are beaten, tied and left for dead in the middle of the desert, unconscious until rescued by two unknown civilians, one of whom Mason believed to be Reznov. At this point, Menendez's motive for his seemingly senseless vendetta against the West becomes clear. His beloved sister was grievously injured in an act of arson committed by American businessmen for insurance money. The Menendez clan, who dominates a powerful drug cartel, was again rocked by the loss of their when the CIA sanctioned the assassination of Raul's father. An embittered Menendez now considers the conflict to be personal, but his one-man struggle against the West is interrupted when Mason Woods Hudson and the Panama Defense Force raid his headquarters in Nicaragua, and enraged Woods inadvertently kills Raul's sister with a grenade. Faking his demise with the assistance of the Panamanian dictator Manuel Noriega, Menendez lives to retaliate against those who he holds personally responsible for his sister's death. During the 1989 invasion of Panama, he utilizes moles in the CIA to kidnap Hudson and David, using them as bait for a trap. He then uses Hudson to mislead Woods, manipulating him into shooting Mason instead of himself. In the ensuing chaos, Menendez kills Hudson and cripples Woods. Unsatisfied with his revenge, Menendez allows Woods and David to live, promising to return to complete his revenge when the time is right. Then this is what happens in 2025. 36 years later, Menendez re-emerges as the leader of Cordis Die, a massive populist movement with over 1 billion followers. He stages a cyber attack that cripples Chinese stock exchange. In response, the Chinese government bans the export of rare earth elements, which the entire infrastructure of the US Army runs and relies on, fomenting the start of the Second Cold War between the United States and NATO, against the Chinese-led Strategic Defense Coalition. Taking advantage of his standoff, Menendez attempts to bring the two superpowers to a full-blown war by inciting conflicts between the two, secretly aiding leading chairman Tyne Zhao, using the intelligence provided by Woods David, and now a Navy SEAL codenamed Section, leads JSOC units in the search for Menendez. Shortly after gathering intelligence from Woods, Section and JSOC infiltrates Myanmar, investigating suspicious activities in the region. Their Section's team encounter Eric Breigner, a magnetometrist. I don't know how to say that word. A magnetometrist working at Tacitus Cooperation under Menendez's employment, warning them of a cyber attack with a Celerium device, a quantum computer capable of hacking any computer system. Section's team is later deployed in Pakistan, attempting to gather intelligence on Menendez's plots. During the infiltration, Eric discloses the name of a target, Karma, in the Cayman Islands. Section and SEAL operatives Harper and Salazar later infiltrate the Cayman Islands, finding out that Karma is a woman named Chloe Lynch, a former employee of the Menendez's shell corporation, Tacitus. Lynch was the main developer of the Celerium device, and as a means of wrapping up loose ends, Menendez has deployed mercenaries for her abduction. JSOC later has a lead on Menendez in Yemen, where JSOC asset Farid infiltrates Menendez's cell to help sanction facilitate the leader's capture. The player, as Farid, has a choice during the mission. Menendez, suspecting Farid's disloyalty, orders him to shoot the captured Harper. If the player chooses not to shoot Harper and instead attempts to shoot Menendez, he fails, but Harper survives and is rescued. If the player chooses to shoot Harper, Farid survives and Harper is not present in any conversations or missions thereafter. Menendez is successfully captured, but this was a ruse for Menendez to hack the US military's computer infrastructure on the aircraft carrier Barack Obama, seizing control of the United States' entire drone fleet. Salazar is revealed to be Menendez's mole within JSOC and facilitates Menendez's attack. Menendez escapes with Salazar's aid, and when Menendez breaks into the bridge of the Obama, Salazar shoots the soldiers guarding Admiral Briggs, with Lynch's survival dependent on Farid's survival in the previous mission. The player playing as Menendez has the choice of either killing or wounding Admiral Briggs. If the player only wounds Briggs, and the player has completed all Strike Force missions, JSOC and SCD enter an alliance. Then the player is later informed that the SCD sent hundreds of drones to defend the Obama, and consequently Briggs was able to save the ship and its crew. Menendez hacks into the military satellite to gain access to the entire US drone fleet to stage an attack on Los Angeles during a meeting of the G20 leaders, hoping to kill them and cause catastrophic damage to the global economy and to attack several targeted cities in America and China to cripple their infrastructure. Section escorts the President of the United States to safety amidst the drone attacks. JSOC eventually traces the source of the transmissions responsible for the hacking to Haiti, where Section leads JSOC forces into recapturing the facility in the final mission, and apprehending or killing Menendez. There are different endings depending on the actions the player takes throughout the campaign, such as whether or not the United States and China are able to enter an alliance with each other, or as well determining the fate of certain individuals during the game. During the campaign, the player may choose to participate in optional strike missions. The strike missions involve JSOC attempting to curb the SCD's global influence by preventing them from forcing neighbouring countries into an alliance. If all of the missions are completed successfully, the SCD is weakened enough to ally with JSOC, forming an alliance between the United States and China, with the Chinese assisting the player later in the campaign. And the endings, there's like a couple of different endings. The storyline for Call of Duty Black Ops 2 has several possible endings. The one shown depends on decisions and tasks completed over the course of the game. If the player spares Menendez's life, completes all Strike Force missions, and the player and the characters Chloe Lynch and Alex Mason survive the events of the game, then the preferred ending will result. The player will have secured an alliance between China and the United States, ending the Second Cold War. Lynch's survival prevents Menendez's cyber attack from succeeding, and finally Alex's survival allows him to visit Frank Woods in the retirement, reuniting with David. The final scene shows Menendez in prison becoming enraged after watching a talk show with Jimmy Kimmel interviewing Lynch, who insults Menendez during the interview. If Menendez is spared and Lynch survives but Alex Mason is killed in action, then the Second Cold War will end and Menendez's cyber attack will fail. David Mason will visit his father's grave with Woods and decide to retire from soldiering. Woods comments on that his father would approve of this decision. If Menendez is spared and Lynch is killed, David will take Menendez into custody. The cyber attack, however, will succeed, allowing Menendez to escape. He then kills Woods in the retirement home before visiting his sister's grave, dousing himself in gasoline and readying a lit match. Finally, if Menendez is killed, regardless of Lynch and Mason's fate, a YouTube video that Menendez recorded earlier will air, inciting the civilian population to burn and riot down the White House. If the players complete the game once, players can unlock a non-canonical special ending. The ending shows Menendez and Woods having some practice in the back room with Avenged Sevenfold. I'm guessing, I've heard of the band before, I've never listened to the music. They then perform at Club Solar together, with Menendez playing the guitar and Woods on the drums. Several characters from the game also make an appearance in the cheering crowd. So that was a very bad recap of Black Ops 1 and 2 storyline. What I'm going to quickly do is, there's a very short description of the Black Ops 3 campaign which I'm just going to read out quickly. Call of Duty Black Ops 3 takes place in a dystopian future set in 2065, 40 years after the events of Black Ops 2. Air defense systems have advanced to a point where they can cancel each other out. As such, most of the warfare between countries done by covert operations fighting behind enemy lines. Science and technology have radically changed both the landscape as well as the future of the human race, with society violently protesting and attempting to halt further advancements touted by scientists as progress. Military technology has progressed to the point where robotics play a main role in combat, and super soldiers have been developed to fight in the battlefield. Humans have reached the point where they are considered to be more machine than flesh and blood. As a result, there is a speculation and fear about the eventual robotic takeover. The game will follow a team of Black Ops soldiers like the previous installments in the Black Ops series with super soldier capabilities. That is a recap of Black Ops 1 story, Black Ops 2 story, and a short preview of the Black Ops 3 story, which I will be Let's Playing on my channel, so keep an eye out for that if you ever do get round to seeing it. I hope you guys enjoyed this maybe bad recap, but all in all a recap of Black Ops 1 and 2, and I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time for more Road to Black Ops 3. Cheers for watching, guys.